Hey y'all, it's me again. Happy Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. Might not be taco. It could be Taco Tuesday. Hey everyone, how you doing? Again, I'm coming to you just very quickly today. I'm in the car rider line again. Notice the pattern. But I kept asking the Lord, I said, you want me to kind of talk to the people every day? You're going to have to give me something, God. And he reminded me of a conversation he's been having with me in reference to this windstorm that the whole nation is facing, right? And so my oldest son is terrified of weather, okay? And he partially gets a lot of that from me because I can be terrified of weather. Floridians, we deal with hurricanes, tornadoes, all this other stuff. And so he's terrified of weather. And so in thinking about him and thinking about this windstorm, I'm like, oh, I got to kind of downplay it because I don't want him to be terrified as he normally is. And he came up to me and said, Mom, they're saying all this stuff, at school, and we got to be, so I calmed him down. And so the Lord kind of ministered to me in the middle of the night last night about wind. And so he even woke me up and kind of kept talking to me about the wind. And so I'm like, okay, Lord, well, what are you trying to say? The wind, this windstorm is coming. And he just reminded me that I'm in the wind. And so I'm like, what does that mean? And so when I started thinking about what the wind does, even Jesus talks to Nicodemus about the wind. And he's saying that you don't know where it's coming from, but you basically feel the impacts of it. And so I think about God's wind, the wind of God, how it's hovering over the earth, and how he uses his wind sometimes, as we spoke about yesterday, that new thing that we talked about that God is going to do in our lives. Can't you see it? It's already started. We talked about that yesterday. How else is he going to clear our path if he doesn't breathe or use the wind to kind of move some of those blockages and those things that are hindering us from moving forward out of our way? And so whereas the wind could be scary for some, it could be terrifying for some. And some people physically are going through this windstorm right now, and some, God forbid, may have a loss, or trees are down, or the elements happen, and consequences from that happen. But for believers, I believe God is speaking to us in the wind, and he's allowing us to know, to feel his presence, that I am in the wind. I'm speaking to you in the wind. I have a word for you in the wind. I'm clearing things in the wind. I'm making paths straight in the wind. Those things that hindered you before, they won't be mountains in front of you now because I'm in the wind. And so I'm kind of comforted knowing that things are not just running amok, and and the enemy is, fighting us here, and no, God is in the wind. And I love that he is speaking to us and calming us down. I walked outside, and I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, I got to get in this windstorm to go pick up my son. And the Lord just gave me a peace, like everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. I am still in control. Somebody needs to hear that today, other than myself. He is still in control, and he is in the wind. And so I would just admonish all of us to allow him to move some things out of our life. Physically, yes, we're going to see this wind. We're going to feel this wind, especially, just the whole nation is going to feel some part of this storm. But even in the midst of a storm, God is still protecting and loving on his children in the midst of a storm. And he's going to give us the peace that passes all understanding in this storm. And I want to encourage you, like we may be seeing a physical storm, but many of us are going through emotional storms, financial storms, whatever kind of, to go ahead and think of him as your peace in the midst of a storm. It doesn't matter what is going on all around me. God, you are my peace. Lord, I thank you for the breath of life that you are breathing on me and in this earth. I think about in Ezekiel 37, when those dry bones needed breath so that they could stand up as an army. What did he do? He told Ezekiel, I need you to prophesy to the winds. I need you to speak to the the winds, tell them to come from all four corners, and I need them to put the breath of God into these dry bones. And that is what God is calling us in this season. Speak to your situation. I know I'm not the only one that might have some dead things, some dry things that come up in my life, but I'm speaking to every single situation, and I'm causing the breath of God to be breathed into them so they can now raise up and become a strong army. And so I think God is speaking to us in this wind and saying, whatever dry and dead things you thought were in your life, you need to speak to those things. I am in the wind. I can breathe life into that which was lifeless. And as we are feeling the breath of God through the wind of God on our faces, throughout, as we walk on the street, we need to realize He is in me. He is in the wind, and He has given me power and authority to command and to call some things that were dead to be alive again. So join me in declaring and decreeing and speaking some things out. Those things that God has placed in your heart, those things that He's placed in your mind, that creativity that He has unlocked, you speak to those things and call those things that are not, call them to be. Lord, I'm asking you to breathe life into this thing. It could be a relationship. God, breathe life into it. It is dying. It is dry. Lord, breathe life into it. And God will do just that. As long as we align our prayers to His will, He will answer and He will respond. So that's all that He's given me today. We're going to thank Him for the wind. We're going to ask Him for protection, of course. We don't want anyone lost in this storm, and we don't want anything to be taken away. But God is in this wind, and we need to acknowledge His presence and acknowledge His power, the strong hand of God. We need to acknowledge His power and thank Him that He's got us covered, and He has given us authority to speak, to prophesy, to declare those dry things. Hey, you got to get up because the wind of God is coming my way. Vashawn Mitchell has a powerful song called The Wind of God. Go ahead and listen to that song. It is moving. That wind is moving some things out of our way, and God is starting something so new and so fresh in our lives. So be encouraged on today. Do not fear. Be encouraged and speak. Speak in this season of this fresh wind. Speak and let those things take life. Those things that need breath. Speak. I love you all. You all have a wonderful day and be safe. Bye-bye.